Good morning and welcome to day 3 here at SMT Hybrid Packaging. It's been a really interesting show in many ways. Not an awful lot of new equipment and the show traffic has been a little bit slower. Here to discuss it with me this week is our friend and roving reporter, Keith Bryant. Nice to see you again, Keith.
It's nice to be here on the last day of the show, Trevor.
Right. Well, we did do the open of the show. It's appropriate that we do the close and we can catch up and see what either of us have seen. As I said just a moment ago, not a lot of new equipment on the show floor. It's been mostly software.
Very true. I guess part of that reason is people don't wait for the shows anymore. If they've got something to launch, they want to get it out before the competition. So it's no longer the time of, okay, we're going to launch in June or we're going to launch in November if it's something in Europe.
Right.
So I think that has changed. But obviously with the software guys, first of all, there's so much happening at the moment with 4.0.
Yep.
And this is the place that they have to talk about it, really, because they're talking about interconnectivity of machines.
Yeah.
And this is the space where all the machines are.
Yeah, definitely. No, and you see that with the CFX machines on the floor, the smart factory line that's through on the other side. That's all about connectivity. But I guess some of the new news on the software front this week was the announcement 2 days ago from JARA, the Japanese Robotics Association. They brought out their standard, which for machine-to-machine communication.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, and it really shows the speed that things are moving at. Because I was chatting to Michael Ford yesterday, and he said, the IPC CFX guys are already engaging with these guys to actually find a way of pulling everything together. So hopefully there's basically one thing that runs, and we don't get into the videotape argument that we had a long time ago with VHS and Betamax and all the rest of the stuff. So,
right.
These guys are already starting to talk to each other about working together, and for me, that's a big step forward.
Well, that's great. I mean, I hope we can all exist as one big happy family. But there's obviously some commonality with that in the Hermes standard. But we'll see how that plays out. I think both of them are doing packets of information horizontally. And working on handshakes between machines to make changeover times much quicker.
Yeah.
We'll see where that goes. Any other observations from the show floor this week?
Well, amazed that there's 320 partners now with CFX.
Yes.
And that makes them a very dominant presence. But also, the guys who are doing stuff around it. Everybody is looking at connectivity. We have a situation where we're working, I can't tell you the company or too much about it, but we're actually working on, let's call it 4.0 for soldering.
Right.
So that basically the company is continually monitoring their soldering systems.
Really?
And anything where the soldering system drops out of the process window or gets towards the bottom of the process window, talking temperature, those boards are actually run out of their normal production system, and they're x-rayed to make sure the middle of the BGAs have got good joints before they go back into the system.
Really?
And normally that would only get found out at the end when you do final test and you've put them in a box or whatever. So there's big projects happening.
So that's really interesting. So you're really moving the X-ray up the line.
Yeah. And as I said, it's a small project. It's linking two machines together.
Yeah.
But the benefit is huge. Because we all know sometimes the settings that are on our reflow ovens or selective soldering or whatever are not exactly what the board is seeing. So these guys are actively monitoring the chamber, and if there is a problem with the system where a heater breaks or something goes wrong that's affecting the temperature, then those boards get inspected real time, straight off the line, there and then. They don't go back into the line until they're either known good or fixed.
Right. That's really interesting. Wow. One more thing I saw on the software side, just while we're on that subject, there was the Siemens Mentor acquisition. We didn't know what that was going to produce, but I had a look yesterday, and really the portfolio that rounds out is quite amazing.
There have been a lot of M&A stuff happening this year and through the last quarter of last year. And for me, this is the best result that I've seen from any of them.
Yeah.
You know, Siemens have brought so much to that party.
Unbelievable.
And you know, the guys that you talk to on the stand are so happy about this because, you know, literally, as you say, you know, they've gone from being, you know, let's not say a bit provider, but they've gone from being almost, you know, a specialist piece into now a key area for most of the production cycle and even beyond it.
Absolutely. I mean, and two of the key things they brought to it is one is that they've actually successfully closed the design for manufacturing loop, which is something that people have been trying to work on for years, you know, and reduce the number of turns using their lot size 1 virtual board. The other thing that they bring to it is they have their own MES system, so they can really provide an end-to-end software solution, rather than, you know, using software solutions that have to work with an MES software that's not particularly familiar with them.
Yeah, you know, they've, you know, to use the vernacular, if the line is here, they've gone downwards and forwards, and then they've also gone backwards and upwards. It's really good.
Right. Yeah, no, fascinating stuff. But anyway, thank you for joining us. What's your next venture? Where are you off to next in terms of trade shows?
Next trade show is 2 weeks, NEPCON Thailand.
Okay.
It's a little bit hectic for us. We're launching some new machines there, so that's a global first for you. We haven't even sent the press releases out yet, Trevor. So yeah, we're keeping it sort of fairly. Right. I won't say low key, but we're keeping it fairly close to our chests at the moment.
Right.
But yeah, we have new products that are going to be coming out there, and to be honest, it's not a huge show globally in the picture. It fitted the time frame for what we wanted to do. The machines are more Asian-based than European-based, so it made sense not to bring them here. And you know, we will have video, launch material, website, and everything instantly around the world as soon as we pull the plug.
Great.
So you know, it's great that, you know, sometimes you can do it at a show, and maybe it's not the biggest show in the world, but you still get all of the stuff that's happening with it, thanks to the electronic world.
There you go. Great. Well, thank you as always for your valuable input, Keith. It's always great to catch up with you. Coming back after the break, we are going to be talking to the big acquisition news of the show. That is, of course, Mycronic's acquisition of MRSI. And welcome back. My next guest today is Clemens Jargon from Mycronic. Welcome, Clemens. Nice to see you.
Hi, Trevor. Nice to see you.
Yeah. So, of course, you're making the big news this week with the recent acquisition of MRSI. That's one of a string of acquisitions you've made in the last year, 18 months. Let's talk about some of the ones that you've done, first of all, about in the last 18 months ago, starting off with YXLON, which was a major acquisition in China. Has that started to bear fruit, and what have you managed to bring out of that acquisition?
Yeah, Trevor, thanks for this question. So at Assembly Solutions at Mycronic, we basically divide the business in 3 segments and 3 divisions, which is the classical SMT business, where Mycronic has grown, the dispensing area, and as well then the automation, assembly automation, which belongs to the recent acquisition which you mentioned, which was MRSI. So the YXLON acquisition is now about 2 years ago, and this was for us a major step forward, really, to get a good footprint in the dispensing and conformal coating market. You may know that we have done already jet printing and dispensing on high speed with our My700, the jet printer, which is unreached by anybody. But for the broad variety of dispensing applications, we needed the competence and we needed the broad portfolio from YXLON, which we have added here, and so therefore we are now able to address almost all applications in dispensing.
Right. Well, one of the strengths of dispensing companies, or the strength of dispensing companies, is really in their valve portfolio. And that was one of the things you got with YXLON. They had a really strong valve portfolio.
Yes, you're true. I think on one end you have to have a very strong motion control platform, but you have to have a very broad and strong valve portfolio, because applications are so different, and every customer has different perspectives and also different ways of depositing material on its electronic components, on its electronic applications. And with our broad valve portfolio, which is an in-house developed portfolio, we can address almost everything.
Right.
If it's auger valves, needle valves, or piezo valves, anything for any media to be deposited.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how that feeds into, as you say, your My700 dispensers as well, your jet dispensers, because there was a discussion yesterday around stencils and how really going forward, I think that is going to be the platform of the future.
Exactly. So we have a high-speed machine with our My700, and whenever high speed matters, when you want to, for example, in solder paste jetting, want to replace stencils, you can do this with My700.
Right.
When you want to do high-speed glue, SMA, you would to do the My700. When speed doesn't matter, and the dispensing process is more complex, that you also have to move in Z-axis, then you would go for our YXLON dispensing portfolio.
Right. But I think the trend in the industry is for smaller job lots with more customization, so you're going to need faster turnover and faster product, and you won't want to wait a day or two for a stencil and that type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a strong trend, and 01 or 05 is already now a given challenge for all of us.
Yeah.
And also designs in electronic boards is getting more and more complex. You would need to work with step stencils, and this is always difficult, and it always ties you in design rules. With the jet printer going into small dots to 210 micron or below, you can forget about design rules and make boards even smarter. You don't need step stencils, which makes the life of the DFM guys easier and also the operation guys easier.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to the next acquisition you made, which was VI Technology.
Yeah.
The SPI, I mean, a very well-engineered system, actually. What has that brought to you?
Yeah. So in fact, though, when we entered very early, now almost 2 decades ago, the pick and place market, it was a machine business, but now it's a solution business.
Yes.
And therefore you need to be able to offer solutions, and you need to combine your device in your portfolio. When you look now into Mycronic's offering in the SMT area, we have now the jet printer, we have the SPI, we have the pick and place, and we have the 3D AOI. Combine this with the towers and material handling, now we can offer really a complete line solution. And this gives much better opportunities than we had before. So the SPI works together with the jet printer, the AOI works together with the pick and place. The overall system is linked via the Sigma link, so that means we can help our customers even more to go for 0 defects in the line, to control the process and control the data which you generate during the production process.
Right. Yeah. Very important, of course. Everything's getting data-driven these days.
Exactly.
So bringing us up to today, MRSI. It's your most recent acquisition, announced only last week. They're big in the die bonding side. Now, that's taking you more towards the advanced packaging route. Can you explain the strategy behind that acquisition?
Yeah, this is a bit a different area. So we call this division assembly automation, and we would like to expand our portfolio into areas which are niches, but they are also with a huge growth potential. And we want to combine this with our strengths. So one of the strengths and DNAs of Mycronic is high flexibility, high precision. And when you compare this with the AI acquisition, which we have done a year ago for chemical module assembly, and now MRSI, this is a niche with a huge growth potential, and that's the reason why we have invested here.
Into that, that's great. So I'm sure you're not finished yet. What's on your shopping list?
Sometimes opportunities come across, you have to pick them. Sometimes you need to focus on consolidation, on doing things right. And we are not a company who is always going around shopping. We are a company who want to focus on strengths, focus on DNA, strengthen the company, and be there when there is a potential to increase the value of the company and to bring some interesting technologies. You know? So I wouldn't say that there's a shopping list we're working on from top to below. So MRSI is something which is a very strong additional part of Mycronic now. It has a very healthy home market in optical communication, which is about 70% of the revenue. Here, big data is a big trend. We want to join that trend. We want to help that trend here. And that's one of the reasons why we invested here, not because it's a part of a shopping list.
I was maybe oversimplifying it, but obviously you're trying to round out that portfolio so that you have all the parts to help offer these solutions that you referred to earlier. So there must be some parts that you're still looking for, I was guessing. But anyway, Clemens, I want to thank you for joining us today and for giving us an update on the strategy with Mycronic. Okay?
Thank you very much, Trevor.
And that sort of brings us to the end of today's programming here at SMT Hybrid Packaging. And I want to thank everybody for joining us.